Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/PettyRevenge. In today's episode, Boss wants thermostats set to 62F, I recalibrated them. Estranged father called the police on us while grieving our mother's death, fine, you can clean everything up. My petty revenge on a doctor's office I once worked at. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Boss wants thermostats set to 62F, I recalibrated them. When I was an apprentice, mid-1980s, the drunken owner wanted the thermostats in the shop set to 62F, 16.6 C, in the dead of winter. Long narrow industrial building, heater and thermostat at each end. I worked in the middle, near a door. Doesn't sound cold, but when your job requires you to stand still all day. I'm sure it was colder in other workplaces, doesn't matter. Mysteriously, the office was always 72-75F. Strange. So one day, I took the covers off both the thermostats in the shop. Figured out how they worked, and recalibrated them. After I was done, they ran about 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than indicated. 62F, 16.6 C, became 72F, 22.2 C. Big improvement. More than once I saw him check the thermostat, because it wasn't cold AF. Then he wandered off with a puzzled look on his face. He never figured it out. Estranged father called the police on us while grieving our mother's death, fine, you can clean everything up. Disclaimer, I'm not the best storyteller, but I had to share this because I continue to get joy from this. Short backstory. My mother, who I was very close with, passed away suddenly from COVID 3 days before Christmas last year, 2021. I live on the other side of the country and my brother lives on the other side of the state from where our mom lived, so we arrived the next day and stayed at her home, our former childhood home, to try and deal with everything surrounding a sudden death as well as take care of her cats. My father, we'll call him S, has been estranged since I was about 12 years old, and I have not spoken to him since then. He was not, and is not, a nice person, so I am definitely not missing out on anything. My parents never bothered to divorce. Why? I have no idea. On to the petty revenge. A few days after my mom passed, I woke up around 11 a.m. due to being in a different time zone. My brother is still asleep as he works night shift, this is relevant, I promise. After my brief morning routine, I notice a police car in the driveway and head outside to find out what's going on. The officer asked if I lived there, so I explained the above story to him as to why I was there. At this point I had started crying, having to go through everything again. The officer then asked if I knew someone named S, which completely floored me. I told him yes, I did, he is my father who I have no spoken to in over 15 years. The officer then tells me that S called the police saying that someone was trespassing on his property and wanted them out, that someone being my brother and I. Apparently, S came to my mom's house early that morning, and no one answered the door as we were both asleep. He assumed we were ignoring him, and called the police. My brother has his number blocked, but he called and left a voicemail saying he would be back with the police to bust the door down, which we heard later that day. Since my parents never divorced, and my mom's will was almost 30 years old at this point, that meant that the house was legally his now. After the officer explained to me the situation, I see S pull in the driveway. The officer tells me that I did not need to interact with him at all and said I could wait inside while he spoke with him. S ended up giving us until the end of the day to leave the premises. So my brother and I, along with a couple of family members that lived nearby, helped us collect some of our childhood possessions and photo albums and left. I flew home the next day. What S arrived to the next day, no, he was there. He texted me asking where my mom kept her cash, was a disaster. My mom had 2 elderly cats that had issues with finding the litter box at times, so there was cat pee and cat poop scattered through the house that we didn't bother to clean up. There was decomposing food in the kitchen. A couch was overturned in the living room, we had to flip it to catch one of the cats. The trash had not been taken out. There were dirty dishes in the sink. On top of that, he had now a house with over 30 years of accumulated belongings that he now had to clean and empty by himself. My brother and I had planned on cleaning as well as we could, as well as start the process of preparing the house to sell, but thanks to S calling the police on us, that was now all his problem. He ended up sending my brother a letter through a family member complaining about how messy with left the house and how much money he had to spend to empty the property. It's shocking how actions have consequences. My petty revenge on a doctor's office I once worked at. Just over 2 years ago I worked for a doctor's office for a short while. The boss there, who was also the main doctor, was sexist, asking me to wear skirts instead of business pants and shirts. The practice manager was a moody woman who was nice at first but didn't seem to like me. She always had unpleasant mood swings. One day she was nice and lovely, in other days she was angry. I worked there for a few weeks until one day, the practice manager decides to can me due to wanting more experience. Keep in mind that they knew I wasn't experienced when I first started, so this was a dumb excuse. They didn't pay me for my last week, ignored my emails and calls regarding pay, and I asked for a better reason as to why they let me go. I just went in for an appointment for a few medical issues. I saw a different DR, wasn't seeing the head jackass. Practice manager didn't recognize me. When I went in and sat down, I spoke to a few patients and told my story, but dressed it up as a hypothetical situation, not telling them it happened, and of course they were appalled at the idea. I spoke loudly in front of the practice manager, who started connecting the dots. When they asked for payment, I said that I didn't have money on my card and needed to step outside for better reception. I then left. I repeated this about 4 more times. They called and chased up the payment, then I reminded them of my owed wages. They can try to sue or whatever, but considering the shady sh*t I also heard about what they do, I don't think that will happen. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.